The social model of disabilities is how people who have disabilities see themselves. The word disabilities tends to have a negative connotation, often seen as those that have disabilities are incapable of what Stella Young would kind of consider a normal life. However, the social model does not agree. What the social model of disability video, it explains how disabilities should be seen as impairments or barriers, because we all have barriers. It helps to also realize that they are something beyond the thing that other people thought. So it's important that people see themselves as full. And then in the animation, it also realizes that if things aren't built for you, then obviously you're going to have problems of functioning in that setting. So this outlook creates a community of people and a platform to have their voices be heard so that changes can be made. Based off of what I learned about the social model of disabilities, I inferred that the medical model is about how doctors are seeing those people with disabilities not as impairments. So they're not treating them as impairments, but they're just seeing them as something negative and something that stops them in many things, and not as something that can be worked around. And after Googling medical model, I realized that I was right. However, I did not realize to what extent that the doctors put on the disabilities and not on the person as a whole. In a few words about People First language, I learned about how people talk about disabilities is extremely important. If negative words are being used by people, then what they're talking about is always going to have a negative connotation. The article explains that People's First language, quote, puts the people before the disability and describes what the person has, not who a person is, end quote. A disability is only one aspect of who someone is, and saying that a person with a disability defines them is a very shallow observation. And the non-example that I thought of was the word midget instead of using the words little person, because it's very downgrading when talking like that. So the importance of the models and our language and the expectations is that each one of those shapes one another. The model is how we see those with disabilities, and our language is often affected by how we view people with disabilities, which then affects the expectations we have for them. So Stella Young explained how she was almost given an award for living a life that those without disabilities would be expected to have. So what she seemed to want is for people to stop feeling pity on her, but just to see her as a person, not as a person with disabilities. And I think that's just extremely important, that we're not putting our own worries or what we think people with disabilities can do or not do. It's up to that person to use their body to the most and to the extent that they can. And people without disabilities should not put those boundaries on those people with disabilities.